Saw, dude. What's going on, guys? Lucilius has finally dropped. I got a lot I want to talk about. Now, full disclaimer, I jumped to this fight under-geared for sure. I had no supplementary damage sigils, no war elementals. I didn't even have all the sigils unlocked in one of the characters. Percival on my team was using an Ascension weapon, while the other two had halfway upgraded Terminus weapons. Fairies is fully upgraded, but her Terminus and Percival's Ascension weapon are pretty much the only things fully upgraded in anyone's gear besides Awakening sigils, which come fully upgraded. Also, I've been going through an ongoing challenge for myself where I see how far I can get in the game without using a single potion, meaning I've been relying almost entirely on my team's sustain abilities for survival. So how do I feel about the fight? First off, easily one of the best designed fights in the game, I feel like. It definitely earns a spot in my top 3 in terms of fun, the other two being Pilot A and the story version of Bahamut Versa. He's definitely one of the most aggressive bosses in the game. He starts off the fight exactly as you saw in a teaser a couple months back. Uses an ability called Paradise Lost, which drops a ton of AoEs on you. You also need to pay attention to the edges of the arena for little flashes that indicate incoming line AoEs across the arena. This will basically set the tone for the rest of the fight, so take this as a hint to lock in. Once he's done with that, that's when he sets down to fold you up personally. During the fight, there were times where I thought he was letting up to give me a breather, but he's actually getting ready for his 4th 3-piece combo before teleporting into an AoE. He's relentless. One thing I noticed right off the rip is that he's unable to be CC. That means no paralyze, no glaciate, no slow. And I was just like, holy crap, when I saw that, because I had that pretty much on all my characters. So it was a good thing that I had Provoke on Percival and had him act as my tank for a bit. That way the rest of us could get at least some hits in without having to fight for our life the entire time. He also sets down mines that have a very fast telegraph when you get too close. Combined with his 2 raid-wide abilities that pull you in and push you out, positioning is something I found myself keeping in mind throughout. When it comes to the push and pull attacks, he throws out some bullet hell attacks with them that come with the SBA lock debuff or a skill lock debuff when hit. This will happen even when blocked, so iframing or finding an opening are your best option for these. You can also parry, which is what I found the best for me on parry. I imagine that debuff is their way of punishing you for tanking these hits, as I see a lot of people do, instead of just outright one-shotting you. That's not to say there aren't any one-shotters. These types of attacks are usually telegraphed well enough. He's got one where he sits with his weapons up while priming. He either needs to be in his hitbox or out of range to avoid it. You can iframe or parry, but there is no preliminary indicator to it. So if you're going to go for that, your time is going to be based on whether or not you've seen it a few times. I usually just found myself getting out of range for this one. There's also a multi-hit attack he does that comes out pretty suddenly. He will sometimes just teleport into you with it or just use it out of nowhere. I used to think that the preliminary reaction was that he would teleport away from you and then into you to use it, but you can also use other attacks mentioned while doing this. And sometimes, like I said, he'll just suddenly use the attack. I think if there was any attack I was consistently getting hit by, it was this one. Maybe I just need to study this attack more, but it definitely feels pretty cheap being suddenly hit by this one at times. When he gets to about 85%, he goes into the 12 labors mechanic. First up, you have to touch these circling runes on the ground, which was for some reason harder than it sounds for me. I think it's because it can sometimes come down to the RNG when it comes to AI. They start sprinting and starting to go at it and trying to get those runes, but they can only really do one thing at a time. So if they have to dodge or avoid something, they'll make sure to do that while standing in place or something. If they hop over that wave that's coming in, they'll do it and then like wait for their landing animation to complete and then start chasing after the rune. And sometimes they'll just dodge and they go through the entire dodge animation, stand up from their crouch, and then finally start trying to run off to the rune. And if that happens too often, then they start basically slowing down and you're basically just soloing it. Should you fail though, he'll drop a death ball that lowers your maximum HP, but if you pass it, you're clean. Next part was having to destroy these orbs before that bar fills. This one could also turn into a bit of RNG since the orbs could sometimes spawn far off from you, right? And like I said, the AI does not sprint. And then when they also dodge, they dodge backwards and they distance themselves from whatever target they're going to. And they go through the entire animation of it before they finally get back up and then start jogging on over to that target. and so a lot of time gets kind of wasted that way. I think for this, I probably would have been better off having Rackham or Eugen instead of EO. They could likely have consistent damage going off alongside me without having to jog around like the other two. But same case here. Fail and you lose HP based on how many orbs are still around, and if you pass, you're just completely clean. Now, as you see that at the end, I basically learned at that moment that, wait a second, I can jump into the air and hit these things with my whip from the air for some reason, and so I can avoid the little stuff that's going on the ground while still dealing damage. So that's probably something I'll start doing a lot more. I don't know if that works on other characters, but just on Fairy right now, I think I just saw that works right there. So if you're having a little bit of trouble trying to get some hits in on those things on Fairy, hop into the air, just do your freaking aerial combo. You're going to get some hits in some reason. The third part was probably the easiest. It has you destroying his 3 weapons that go pretty much autonomous mode. This one was, it was probably easiest because of the fact that the AI could now do what they're best at, which was not get hit and deal damage. And since these weapons fight back and come to you, they weren't wasting time jogging to these weapons. Overall, I'd say I really like the execution of these overall mechanics. I just probably needed a better team composition for it. Once you get through the 12 labors, he then gets ready for a final attack. And this is when you use the SBA you were saving for. In fact, Sindolphin tells you right in the start, whenever you first get it charged up, to hold off on using it because they're going to use it at the right moment. It's here that he says to let loose. And once you guys all do use your SBAs, Sindolphin jumps in with his 5th one and turns it into an overburst. After that overburst, Sindolphin will block that next Paradise Lost with his own, and then you guys are right back to fighting just regularly. If you failed the 12 labors mechanic completely, you pretty much have to fight this guy with 1 HP. Also from here, he will occasionally jump to the middle to charge another Paradise Lost attack. You can stop him by getting the stun off or using your SBA. Now, with how undergeared my team was, we kind of had to get used to Paradise Lost. Let's say I got a lot of practice with that. The trick I found is to head to the front of the arena and move across. The pattern of cross AoE dreams becomes more clear that way, and there's almost a route you can take to avoid all the damage based on your timing. I can see people not liking this attack as it is very fast and the line AoEs only flash at the edge of the arena, so you have multiple locations you need to keep track of. Personally, I didn't mind it too much. I actually really like this kind of attack, especially with the flash to the side. It makes it feel like you're being attacked from multiple angles rather than just looking at the ground to see where all the AoEs are coming through Final Fantasy XIV style. You're being hit by dozens of different beams from this freaking crazy attack. And so I think having the aesthetic of it, you looking at multiple locations, kind of helps set that home. At about 60% HP, Lucilius will do this badass transformation for his second phase into the transition. Then he'll immediately start dropping AoEs that leave down ooze that slows you down with a beam following each character. The AoE markers follow you up until like around the last second, so with some good timing you can place them down in spots to give you some more leg room for the upcoming mechanics. You can also get some easy invincibility off by bypass the slow altogether. He then finishes off with another death ball in the middle and is back to business as usual. Only now, on top of the occasional Paradise Loss, he'll also be doing one of those 12 labors mechanics to try and lower your max HP even further. There are also some more phase attacks he does, but eventually you do get to the final DPS check when his health gets low enough, which you'd probably expect this far into the game. Okay, now that I have all the little specifics out of the way, at least most of them, how did I feel about this fight overall? I'd say I really had a very good time with this fight. It took me a couple of tries, just because, like I said, undergeared and stuff like that. I'm gonna be honest, I was too lazy, guys. I just wanted to jump in. I wanted to fight Lucilius. I wanted to do it now, even though I hadn't played the game in like a week and stuff. And so I just jumped in and I got my butt kicked a couple of times, and I finally got him at like maybe the 3rd time, I think. And so, now with all that in mind, I think I love the spectacle of the sound design is really good. Whenever he throws those swords down, you just get that kind of like hum with a final explosion, which happens kind of after he uses Paradise Lost. That always sounds really good. A lot of when he throws those death balls down, those always have, it sounds so much impactful. right? There's so much impact to it. So the sound design is great. The spectacle, the effects are cool. It's challenging. It's relentless. You just feel like you're just after you set that tone with that first Paradise Lost, it just feels like you're just constantly getting berated by this guy. Yeah, and so it's just like I had a really good time with it. I'd give this like easily, I say about a 9 out of 10 fight. I really had a good time with it. There are some problems with it that keep me from going up to a 10. And I think there's the main biggest issue with it is that visual clarity. You might have noticed it throughout the entire fight with footage going on in the background, but you can barely see Lucilius behind the damage numbers, let alone all the other stuff going on. Did I mention Sandolphus is fighting alongside you? I think I did. He'll even drop the occasional party-wide heal. Unfortunately, he can sometimes mess me up on top of that visual clarity issue I'm talking about. There was quite a few times Lucilius would teleport, and my dumbass would immediately start chasing after Sandolphin. This is the first fight where it was pretty much required that I have to lock on, which is something I just don't usually bother with. In terms of difficulty, like, I think this is a pretty tough fight. But then again, like I said, I was pretty under-geared, and so I kind of really had to focus up, especially since I was used this is a no potion run, right? I was trying to keep that going and everything, and I didn't want to start using potions now. I'm already this deep in. There's no reason to start using potions now, right? But I think it's like, it's not that super tough, but it's when you got to really focus up on this one, right? And I think it's just that right type of difficulty I'm looking for out of an action game like this. It makes me definitely look forward to whatever the devs are cooking up next for their battle content. So what did you guys think? Was it too easy? Maybe too hard? Was there any things you didn't like about him altogether? Maybe he was just right. Why don't you guys let me know down in the comments section, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.